has a native village on it called Metlakatla. But the air base that was there was a World War II defense perimeter, and it was operational, but they allowed commercial air traffic to come into it too. So the ladder is designed to bring them up about 17 feet from that lower part to that part right there. And then that water sustains itself like a little dam action, and it carries all the way up to the spawning grounds very, very nicely. Now, you might have noticed that that trail right there, or walkway, has actually got its own name. It's called Married Man's Trail. Well, it's kind of self-explanatory, because if you follow that thing, this entire creek will fill up with salmon that are that big. That big. They look like small dolphins down here at the peak of the largest of the salmon coming through. Now, we've improved on that a little bit because our hatchery is around the corner and because the Ketchikan area was pretty much wiped out of salmon due to the fact that the early 1900s they had developed the fish trap days. And the fish traps were so successful at taking these salmon that were going to come up here and spawn that it wiped out the ecosystem. Ketchikan used to be the salmon capital of the world. That's a pretty big name. Now it's kind of moved up more to the Petersburg area, but due to the fact that the actual traps were so successful, we had 12 canneries in Ketchikan. The mama itself, to come up into this area, will actually be sampling to be a common name throughout time, but it was known as the Island Trader, and that particular vessel was capable of being able to visit all those different logging camps inside of 1 week and then be right back here to do it again. Also, Dolly's house, when you get down to this end, that's the end of Married Man's Trail. That lime green building, and you know, I think that's a really unique color, that is Dolly's house. That's the official building still to this day, and it is a museum where you can actually go up there and see what they did. Also, as we come up on this side of the museum, you can see that there's a couple mill. It was not an affiliate at that time with Louisiana Pacific. It was actually a Georgia Pacific form. As time went by, though, Louisiana Pacific did buy into it and finally buy the shares. By the way, we have a Burger Queen restaurant in town, but we don't know what happened to Burger King. It just kind of went away. The snow on it, and then that road during the winter. Because there's no problem about not stopping unless you got that big pile of snow down on the bottom. It just keeps on going, you know. Road was built very nicely, which went to former Governor Mikowski's property. That's one side of it that was kind of interesting. The other side of it was that right where we just came from, that's where the bridge really belongs. We want a suspension bridge that goes across to the airport. If we get that, it'll make some sense. The bridge where they're talking about making it is going to span 5 miles, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. Here's an example of how our barges travel throughout Alaska like that. Now, when we leave about 2 miles outside of the downtown area, we now start seeing holding tanks setting alongside the different buildings because that is our domestic water out here. in the ground, a good 6 feet deep. And because it's really raw wood, tying into raw wood is basically planted in the ground. This wood will, with the changes in weather, draw water up inside it. And it keeps it around for about 200 years without rotting. One of the unique things that they were able to actually have those bloodline references. Then once it gets past that building of 50-some members, another one's built right alongside it. Then there's another 50 members. Before long, you have anywhere from 16 to 17 of this. You have a village. That's the way of it. These buildings are going so tall. This is actually the cauldron area where they would have the fire. And then those alders can get hot now. That they will take 2 rocks and stand them in this area, and they'll take one 3-foot size rock that is about 19 inches thick, and it will have marble in it. They usually find some rocks that have marble. They can fire that to the point where that rock will be cooked on top. And that would actually heat the building by radiating all that heat in that rock like that. Then they would divide this up into an authority base. This would actually be usually the chief side and his wife and family, and this was the elder, the oldest elder of the tribe. Those were the 2 highest authorities that was inside a clan house like this. They had boards that they would lift up. They don't want it to fall. They've done it so many times. But these boards do lift up out of there, and they can store their different worldly goods down inside. Now, one of the other things that makes this very, very accurate is you see these boards. That's a piano. That is the actual Lincoln piano. And most of their performed dances do not have that because that's a pretty heavy little structure to drag into a school to perform a dance. But it's really important because they're tone. These boards actually have a definite tone. And definitely where you are making the sound. not like chopping like this. This is not how they use it. They use it in a hewing form. They stand here and they hew in and hew out. And by chipping in and chipping out, it's like forcing
interrupted by water twice, once between Vancouver Island and the mainland, and once between Newfoundland and the mainland on the east coast. Now, I had a gentleman last season on my bus. He was from Newfoundland, actually from St. John's, and called out. I said, "Hey, Pete." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Actually, the highway starts in St. John's, Newfoundland," he said, "because the sun rises in the east and sets in the west." And I said, "Well, I don't want to be argumentative, but if that was the case, wouldn't our sign say mile 4,850? And that's when the fight started." And I actually won that because I know exactly where you were sitting. I found the right coordinates. I put in the right through the route you went. So don't make that bus driver unhappy, okay? On your right-hand side, Beacon Hill Park. This was donated. This land for Beacon Hill Park was donated to the city of Victoria. This is where justice is dispensed. Right. As I go through this next intersection, take a look at the end of the street, the Church of England. One of the biggest churches in Victoria, oldest church. So Winston Churchill has his initials on the North Tower, and the wet cement was here in 1922 and did that. This building on your right is the Royal Theatre. We've got two theatres in this town that are used for live plays and concerts. This is one of them. The other one is McPherson Theatre, which is actually in downtown Victoria. This is the Royal Theatre here. Now, when I get to the next intersection, if you look to the end of the block at the next intersection, not this one, take a look, you can see Craig Derrick Castle at the very end of the street, way up there, okay? Now, this church coming up on the left-hand side is the actual Catholic Church now. This is one of the older churches in Victoria. This is St. Andrew's. You can see in the corner here, there's 3 little headstones, and then there's 2 more further down there. Nobody really knows if there's anybody buried there or not, but for Halloween's sake, we tell all the kids that yes, there are people buried there. There too. Just a little bit of drinking. Okay, there's a lot of drinking. But in front of us in 2 more lights is the municipality of Saanich. Now, Saanich is the largest landmass of the 4 core municipalities. And its only claim to fame back in the day was that if you had a job or if you owned a business in Victoria or Esquimalt, that's where you would live. But now they've got two educational facilities out here, Coercion College plus the University of Victoria. They have several large shopping malls, basically a big retirement community with a lot of touches of a little bit of old England in it. And one thing it does have is it has an area called the Uplands. So the Uplands is a place where there's underground wiring, big fancy mansions. To be living in the Uplands, you have to have money in the amount of about $2 million to buy a house or property there. And quite simply, it's there for the CEOs, the bankers, the lawyers, the doctors, bus drivers, people like that.
Okay, here we are at Butchart Garden. What do you pronounce it?
Bouchard.
Bouchard. Look at the hanging thingies. Goodness, like This is to the South Gardens. There's a wheelchair entrance too. Oh, it's dark back here. Maybe we get mugged. frog quit. Yeah.
Look at things.
Bad rivet. Should be to the right.
To do a study or a mapping of the water, just doing a mapping of the coastal area. Sorry, I was just stumbled there for a second. So he actually was the one that sailed around Vancouver Island and said, yes, indeed, this is an island, and then promptly called it Vancouver's Island. So they took the possessive case away and left it as Vancouver Island. Now that being said, nothing happened after that too much until 1842. In 1842, the Hudson Bay Fur and Trading Company came along and set up its post, and I'm going to show you where that location was, at Fort Victoria, and it was set up so that they could trade with our First Nations people. There was a lot of that going on, but they were also there to supply settlers with supplies that were going to be going to the gold rushes later on, and also for people who were coming here to settle. We were the port of entry here in Victoria until 1866, and that's when the big city of Vancouver took over and became the port of entry. Well, we sent it to Victoria. Yeah, they sent it to the state of Victoria in Australia. Hello. Slight error. The Chinese kids had to go to their own school because they couldn't speak English back in the day. And it's coming up on your right-hand side, the Chinese public school finished in 1906. And they're doing something here. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but this looks like something going on here. That truck is normally not there with that big pagoda thing on it or whatever that is. But anyway, they still use that school now, but they use it for the kids when they go to regular school. Born here, you know, in this country for the third, fourth generation, and they go there to learn the language and how to write. It's a roadway in North America. It's 4.5 feet wide at its narrowest portion. It's open in the daytime. There are several really neat little stores in there. So if you ever come back to Victoria, which is my aim here to get you to come back and do some prying around, please make a point of going to Fantan Alley. You'll thoroughly enjoy it. Actually, they shot a movie here back in the 80s. Have you ever seen a movie called Bird on a Wire that starred Mel Gibson and Goldie Hawn? So they watched it before Mel Gibson lost his being, obviously. And they had a big motorcycle chase that went up Fantan Alley where they were being chased by the cops. Looked like it was a half mile long. In fact, it's a city block long. And turn left here on Stewart Street. There used to be a set of railway tracks that ran along this street. And storage warehouse. There used to be tracks that went right in that building. Trains used to go in there and store grain. Mr. Michael Williams came along and said, I can take this ugly duckling and turn it into a beautiful swan. So he created 26 hotel rooms. He furnished them with his own personal antiques. He put up this beautiful little atrium area. It's kind of like a pub-style place. They have jazz music playing in here pretty well 7 days a week, especially during the tourist season, which is in full swing now. And it's a very popular place for locals and visitors. Across the street from that, the one with the banners on it, that is Market Square. There are 3 levels of shopping with a big open square area and another nice place to go shopping and sit around, listen to people doing music and putting on busking kind of performances. Now you can see Mr. Michael Williams, who has passed away, that was responsible for swans. His statue is over here on the left-hand side, and somehow, going left of the actual fort is the white mast back there. This is our inner harbor. We've got seaplanes that fly out of here to various big cities like Seattle, Vancouver, and Nanaimo. And coming up on our right-hand side is the only French mansard-style building in this area. This used to be where you would clear immigration if you came here by boat and you weren't a Canadian citizen. 16 feet or 56 feet, excuse me. And once you cleared, you could actually come out on shore and do your thing. It's 5 after 11 right now. I think we've got time. You can take a look across the harbor. You can see a building on the right-hand side of that beautifully illuminated building with the columns. That is the CPR ferry terminal. It used to be. The building with the lights on it is our legislative or parliament buildings that are going to be coming up to the Empress Hotel shortly on our left-hand side. All 3 of these buildings, plus another 39 buildings, were designed by Francis Boston Rattenbury, a 25-year-old architect who falsified his statistics when he came from England and got the job. This mock-up of the Empire State Building that I'm riding on is actually used to be part of the inner harbor, as is where the Empress Hotel stands on the left-hand side. They backfilled this entire area. How they built the Empress Hotel was they took 2,850 fir trees, they pickled them in brine to petrify them, they bundled them in groups of 5 and 6, used them as pile drivings, then put cement triangles on top and built the Empress Hotel. Completed around about 1904, it's only sunk 1 inch so far. Captain James Cook statue on your right-hand side. Did anybody want to stop quickly and take a picture for 5 minutes, or do you want to get back to the boat?
Picture.
Picture?
Picture.
Okay, 5 minutes, but only 5 minutes. Don't wander off too far, because when you see this door closed, grab the first cab you can, because I'm out of here.
I'll document our ride through Seattle on the way to the airport to catch our plane back to Houston.